to. All right, 804. 804 and 805, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. You could follow along. As we set up in class, this is a narrative poem. If you see the term narrative, that means story. Okay? I think we talked about this back around maybe Beowulf time, a while ago. 806, 807. This was written by Coleridge. And as we set up and talked about Wordsworth, they were chums, they were buddies, they were probably the most famous literary duo, like co-friends, that existed. Back in Shakespeare's time, there was I don't want to say debate, it was more of a friendly rivalry, I guess you could say, between Christopher Marlowe, if you remember him, the spy who got knifed in the eye. Remember that guy? Yeah? No? Someone? Anyway, we have him. That's in the 1500s and so on, but these guys are, a little bit later on. We have a collaboration between the two, even though we only have it with the byline of one person, Coleridge. Wordsworth's fingerprints are still sprinkled throughout the story. The presence of the Albatross, which we'll talk about in a little while, that was one of his little things that he contributed before he bailed out and stopped contributing. Part 1 on 806, 807, did we listen to a portion of this for this class? There was one class that we got through part 1, but we didn't in the others. Okay, the setting. The main focus of the setting is an old man at a wedding pulls a young wedding person aside, says, I need to tell you a story. Man, I got a part I got to. I need to tell you a story. And it talks about something in his eyes that transfixes him, focuses him. That he just, I must listen to this story. You've seen, I watched the show True Blood. Anybody watch that show? They have a thing where the vampires can glamour people, they call it, which means erase their memory. So after they bite them or attack them, if they don't kill them, then they can glamour them so they'll forget that they were even attacked, and then they can go, it's all in the eyes. It's almost, Aladdin. Jafar with his staff, right? See, I talk Disney, you guys know what I'm talking about. Right? That's exactly. There was somebody, Tara Plummer. She spent her 2-hour delay watching Aladdin. I said, very good. Because she couldn't go back to sleep. Ask her about it. She'll love to know that I told you. Anyway, so we have this story being told. And there is a moral to the story. Okay? It involves nature. We'll get there in a little bit. Okay? As we see the religious implications and so on, the penalty that he had to endure for killing that bird and so on. Kind of his penance, his punishment. There are certain religions and faiths and, monks. If you've seen the Da Vinci Code, that albino monk, he inflicts pain onto himself as a form of penance for his murders and his transgressions against the faith. And by inflicting more pain, okay, I'm being forgiven, I'm suffering, so it's okay. Okay? So we see the albatross being used, wrapped around the sailor's neck, and it's a big winged bird. If you look at the lynx on Moodle, the biggest wingspan, and you drape that over somebody's shoulders, and they have to carry it around, almost like, the preppy look of the sweater. That type of thing. Imagine a bird wrapped around you. So it's very, very similar, and who wants a dead carcass, really? I don't. So anyways, that's the penance, and we'll get to more of the morals as we go through the story. So 808, 809, we might have talked briefly about this, but I don't think we got into as much detail as I would have preferred. They're sailors. Sailors are extremely superstitious. I'm a huge fan of The Deadliest Catch, and they are extremely superstitious, those sailors there. There's a certain captain who every time they start a new string and pull up the first pot, he's knocking on different things. He has a bobblehead, he knocks on things, kisses a picture, does all these things. Because if you don't do that, it's going to be a horrible string and there'll be no crab in the pot. Okay, they are crazy superstitious. So, they're surrounded by ice. They're heading south. It's not a very pleasant ordeal. Okay, and remember, this is if they don't have any wind. They're not going to bust out the oars and start rowing across the ocean. They have the masts up, they have the sails opened, but they're not going anywhere if that wind doesn't kick in. And so they're down there surrounded by ice, and there's fog, and they're going very slowly, and it's a horrible thing. Then all of a sudden, this bird, this albatross, can you envision it? what this looks like just out of the mist? Just these big wings just come soaring out. Almost like Jurassic Park, right? The pterodactyls just flying there. And so it comes out and it just kind of, the fog goes away. All of a sudden, they're led out into good waters. Things are wonderful. And for some reason, this guy decides, I'm going to kill the bird. Why? Well, we find out later. For whatever reason. Oh, I guess it's crossbow. So it's like that instead. Anybody know what Star Wars character uses a crossbow? Chewbacca. Extra point for you. That point can be redeemed for nothing. Just my respect. Page 809. So after he kills it, can you imagine the faces of the crew members upon seeing him shoot this bird that has brought them all of this good fortune? They're not too pleased. If you look on 810, because upon killing the bird, things kind of, the breeze, the momentum that they had, just stops. Day after day we stuck, nor breath nor motion, as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. So we move about as far as in a painting. That doesn't move very far, very fast. Okay? And there's water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. Because you don't drink salt water. If you're already thirsty and dehydrated, you don't want to drink something water with salt in it that further gets you dehydrated. And so they're surrounded by water. Oh, glorious water, but I can't drink a single drop. None. So it's almost torturous, right? It's almost torturous. The next paragraph, this kind is important because this is the first time he mentions this presence of a slimy creatures, whether these some sort of serpents or snakes or something. I'm not really scared of too many things. I'm not scared of snakes, but there's something that creeps me out. I might have shared this with you earlier. Something that creeps me out about a snake moving through water. Have you all seen those things? How they move? I mean, they move weird on land and stuff, but through the water, it's just almost like they can just go wherever they need to and get me. There's no way I can really get away. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. So that's me sharing with you for the day. So anyways, he mentions these slimy things that did crawl with legs upon the slimy sea. Goes on about the blackness of the water and witch's oil. And then the very end, almost for the penance that we alluded to a little bit ago, everybody's kind of fed up with it. You're like, you know what, dude? You're going to wear this bird. Your penance. Just draped over your neck like this big weighted mat. Just hanging over. All right, so that just wouldn't be very nice. Next part 3, if you're following along with me. It's a little warm in here today, isn't it? Yeah, and I like it warm, but this is little too. Maybe if I had short sleeves, that'd be just perfect. So anyways, as they're just kind of hanging out, not going anywhere, because when there's no wind, there's no motion. All of a sudden, this boat shows up on the horizon, and the boat starts moving closer to him. Is that kind of weird? How is that boat moving and we're not? So right away, we should understand that there's some weirdness going on. Okay? That supernatural type thing. And so this boat pulls up right next door to them. Almost imagine you latching, holding hands so that they can stay next to each other, kind of buoying next to each other, dropping anchor and so on. The people on that boat, if you look in the stanza with 190 there on page 813, talking about the nightmare, life and death was she. So we have two people. We have death and then this woman. So two people on the boat. Okay? Every time I see death, I always think, and I might have shared this with you, Family Guy, the Grim Reaper always hanging around. Right? So I mean, it's a personified individual of death. When we did what was that? The Pardoner's Tale. Remember those drunk guys ran looking for death and we're going to get them? They actually thought death was a person to go and get. Here we actually have a physical entity, and they're doing some games, some dice game. Whatever the game is, who knows, who cares. But the dice or die is rolled, the girl, I win. Instant change. Okay, take a look at these lines. The sun rim dips, the stars rush out. At one stride comes the dark. So instantly, boom, it's dark. With far heard whisper over the sea, off shot the spectre bark. If you look spectre bark, where's my footnote of that? Ghost ship. So, boom, gone. The ship disappears, takes off. Instantly, I won! Whew, they're gone, it's darkness. That supernatural, nightmarish qualities of the Romantic era are at play here. But the freaky part is, one by one, the next page. One after one, by the star-dogged moon, too quick for groan or sigh, each turned his face with a ghastly pang and cursed me with his eye. 4 times 50 living men, and I heard nor sigh nor groan. With heavy thump, a lifeless lump, they dropped down one by one. If you've seen the movie Avatar, okay, when they're on Pandora and he's in the Tree of Life trying to tell them, hey, they're going to come and blow you up. And if they unplugged his body back in Science Central, I know that's not the name of it, but you understand where I'm going with. His body, his avatar body, just slumped. It made no noise, and it was just dead and lifeless. I know it's not dead, but you get my point. Okay? So here we have how many? 4 times 50 living men. And they all died. They all just started falling. Boom, 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 boom. Without saying anything, without groaning. But as they fell, their eyes were looking right at them. Because who caused all of this problem? The mariner. And so they can't swear at him and stuff. They don't have time, but just staring at him as they die. And you've seen the movies when somebody dies. You ever seen it where they walk up to the body and go like this? It's always such a tacky, cliche shot because they die with their eyes open. So one of those things, they have to close their eyes. But imagine some of the bodies, being, however they fall, and they're in that position. And if they're looking right at them, they're looking at them and staring at them for eternity, and so on. But yet he is the only one that survives. As we move on to the part 4, we are teleported instantly back to the setting of the story, which is the wedding. Okay? The wedding. So the party goer, I fear thee, ancient mariner, I fear thy skinny hand. Because you just told me that everybody on your ship just died. But you're okay? Maybe you are death coming to talk to me. So all of a sudden, I, the party goer, the wedding goer, am fearful of you. He goes, no, I fear thee, and I fear thy glittering eye, and thy skinny hand so brown. Oh, fear not, thou wedding guest. This body dropped not down. So I am the only one who didn't drop. Okay? He still has his penance to suffer for. All because he shot that bird, that albatross. Page 815. So we are transported back out to the story where he mentions 1,000 slimy things lived on and on because he still saw them in the water. 1,000 slimy things. They went on, and so did I. I looked to heaven, and I tried to pray, but or ever a prayer had gushed, a wicked whisper came and made my heart as dry as dust. I couldn't pray. I couldn't pray to God. I couldn't get my forgiveness. I'm just stuck. You guys have heard of purgatory, right? Okay? I'm not saying he's in purgatory. I'm not saying like this is a TV show Lost where everybody's dead already and then they have an alternate universe. No. But he's just unable to. It was like Macbeth. After he killed Duncan and he heard Duncan's sons next door, say a prayer, and Macbeth said, I can't even say amen. Because of what I have done is so bad, I couldn't say amen. How horrible. And he's in a similar boat here. 7 days, 7 nights, I saw that curse, and yet I could not die. So for a week, he's sitting there in a motionless boat, surrounded by 200 dead people, cursing him with their eyes. Just imagine what that would look like in a movie. How horrible that would be. Down at the bottom, this is where we see a big shift. Because he's going to release the bird here in a moment, and it's not anything that he did. He looks down in the water, and he watched the water snakes, around line 280 or so, around in there. How they coiled and swam, and every track was a flash of golden fire. Oh, happy living things, no tongue their beauty might declare. A spring of love gushed from my heart, and I blessed them unaware. Sure, my kind saint took pity on me, and I blessed them unaware. So he couldn't pray, he couldn't do any blessing before, but all of a sudden, for some reason, he was able to bless these watery things, these snakes. And this is only a very subtle thing. You may have just blasted through this and reading it. But every time in the previous pages he mentions them, it's always slimy. Ooh, just floating around, swimming around, gross. But the thing is, those are elements of nature. That bird he shot for no reason is an element of nature. He wasn't respecting that bird. He's not really respecting those things. We're kind of getting to the moral here. Okay? And so, all of a sudden, after all of this week of these dead people, he is able to bless those things. And it said unaware. Subconsciously, he's, oh, what beautiful things, oh, happy creatures. And he's able to bless them. And the saint allowed him to do so because he couldn't earlier. The same moment I could pray, and from my neck so free, the albatross fell off and sank like lead into the sea. So the point of being like lead means it weighed a lot. And it went away. And so his penance is done, or so he thinks. Part 5, the wind picks up. He can hear it. He can sense it. Where are we at? However, if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, when they say, oh, we're going to Tortuga or we're going wherever, they have to climb up those, the fun-looking ladders of rope. They got to unfurl the sails and do the winches and these different things, right? So it's a mini individual job. He can't do it by himself, so he is not fully capable of harnessing the wind. And so this is almost like straight out of some horror movie. All of the dead bodies fill up, stand up, and they go about their business. And he's able to sail and go on. Kind of condensing a couple parts all in one so we can keep this moving, because I want to get to your unit test prep. We have all of these, the ship is actually moving now. And it's taking him home. Now the next part, it was maybe it was off for you a little bit, where it had the angels talking. And the sounds, and you could hear voices, the American hear voices and so on. And those individuals were talking about, has he suffered enough? Oh, I think he's suffered enough. He's okay. He's gone. I don't know if he's gone. And as they're deciding yay or no, his boat is going towards home, back. Towards home. Oh, he's okay. No, he's not. Back and forth, being jerked. It's like tug of war. We finally see him allowed to come back home to his harbor, 822, 823. So you turn with me, please. We see him talk about the lighthouse top, which we heard him talk about upon leaving his harbor earlier in the story. A boat shows up, and as the boat gets nearer, filled with the hermit and the pilot and his son, what happens to the boat that he was on with all of the corpses? It sinks. All of a sudden, it starts to take on water. I have no idea why, outside of, cover his tracks. I mean, he didn't do it. Those beings, those things, maybe this was giving those sailors you've heard of burial at sea, right? Maybe that's the way they would want it, go down. Imagine the story if they pulled up and docked next to this because the bodies, the zombies, the spirits had left and they'd fallen down again. Can you imagine rowing up to that boat? You look up and you see the mariner, hi, and the boat is full of corpses? That'd be like weird, I would think. And so we have, he has to get off the boat and they pick him up and so on. Page 825. We're kind of getting to the last page here. Page 825. We are back He tells the story. The pilot and the hermit want to hear about the story. And there was something within him that said, I have to tell them this story. Okay? Because just like those Canterbury Tales, there's a moral to the story. Ready? You good? Okay. I don't want to speak too fast. I want you to make sure you get it. Okay? So he tells his story. He tells about his actions and his penalty. It's kind of like if you see a TV show now where, there's a convict who does a crime. He's released. Or she, I guess. Ladies commit crimes too. And then they're released and they go to schools and try to educate. And you need to hear my story so that you don't make the same mistakes I do. You mean we're not supposed to go shoot birds? No, that's not it. Respect nature. Because nature is an extension of whom? God. Hopefully you got that from all of the allusions sprinkled throughout. Okay? So an appreciation of nature is an appreciation for God. Disrespecting of nature is a disrespecting of God. And so on. Now, is the penance done? Is this guy totally on parole, done? I don't have to check out anymore? What do you think? Yay? No? What does he still have to do? Tell the tale. He doesn't know when. He doesn't know to whom until he feels a pain. He feels his heart. He just feels something that, I have to do it. I tell it, and then I'm fine. Then I can relax for a while. But as I go about until I feel that pain again, you've had that before. Like, there's something, my Moodle page is the bane of my existence. I have the prettiest Moodle page you have of any teacher, don't I? It's okay. I know it. Okay? I have so much stuff on there, it's ridiculous. Okay? I would spend an hour on that page just cleaning it up, adding something. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I can move it from here to here and it'll make more sense. I don't want to get confused. Maybe if I move this here, no, maybe here. No. And I just spend time doing that. I could say, it's fine and move on. But if I ever find something on a Moodle page, I'm like, I'm going to be thinking about that until it's done. It's kind of like if you ever have a Charlie horse in bed at night, and you guys know what I'm talking about, your calf just really locks up. Do you lay there in bed just waiting for it to get done? If you do, that's going to take you much more time to work out. You're supposed to get up and work it out. I sit there and I just kind of punch at it to try to get it loosened up. But you get up and you kind of stumble and it's painful. You're like, it's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible. Okay, but you got to get it. You got to get at it. And the sooner you do it, the sooner you can relax. And so, his penance is, I must tell this story. Line 580, which forced me to begin my tale, and then it let me free. Since then, at an uncertain hour, that agony returns, until my ghastly tale is told, this heart within me burns. And I pass like night from land to land. I have strange power of speech. That moment that his face I see, I know the man that must hear me. And for this individual, this wedding goer, it is that him. He needs to. He needs to hear it. Okay? And so on. Page 826. Right around 610 or 615, around in that area. So, farewell. Farewell. But this I tell to thee, thou wedding guest. He prayeth well, who loveth well both man and bird and beast. He prayeth best, who loveth best all things both great and small, for the dear God who loveth us, He made and loveth all. Okay? Whether that's the slimy, ugly serpent creatures in the water, or a beautiful, graceful bird that's flying. Okay? You all think dogs and all those, your cats are just beautiful animals. You ever seen like a ferret or some little moles? Moles are the ugliest looking little things. But you respect those the same you respect the things that are nice. That type of thing. Okay? So the last stanza. He went like one that hath been stunned and is of sense forlorn, a sadder and a wiser man. He rose the morrow morn. So the wedding guest, he got up and he left. He didn't go in and have a good time. because he had all of this input, all of these things just told to him. It's a pretty gruesome, grisly tale. A lot of death. Kind of sucks to be those 200 men who died, doesn't it? So this one guy could learn a lesson? It's just like we had the wife of Bath tale. Remember the knight who raped that young woman? And then he ends up with a beautiful wife at the end? Well, what about this woman? What about these 200 guys? And so on. That's where we get to the moral of it. Okay?